people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough.
This is the Patriots Prayer Podcast. It's a tremendous show, one of the greatest shows in the history of the world.
This is Bryson Gray, and you are watching the Patriots Prayer.
PPN, you're doing the right thing.
On the Patriots Prayer Network. Thank you all.
PPN on your bumper.
I'm Tom McDonald. This is the Patriot Prayers Network. Check it out. Lots of good TV, lots of cool people. Tune in, keep it locked.
I'm the white boy with the middle fingers in the air, dog. We don't give a what. 100 white boys gonna hold me down anywhere, dog. We think that you suck. My Patriots the craziest. They ain't afraid of breaking fists on faces. If you really wanna taste of this, no safety tip. The same mistake and spray the clip. I pray you miss, cause if you don't, they gon' go wacko. Automatic gun smoke like tobacco. Never hit a lady, but it's pretty hard to tell if you're a girl or a they, them. There's these, that, those. I ain't never gonna take a knee for the anthem. Smack them. I don't give a damn, can't stand them. Gang full of randoms, fan with a handgun. Run up in your mansion, leave it all abandoned. I was raised to be brave to the grave. United States, we love the country that they've been corrupting. Go woke and go broker if you ain't obeyed. My people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flags. American flags. American flags. And every time we pull up, all you...
And welcome to another episode of the Patriots Prayer Podcast, guys. And with me, I have today Nunzio and Glenn Baker. Guys, what's going on?
What's up, Eddie? How's it?
Life in the fast lane.
Right. So, I'm looking forward to sleeping tonight until I actually wake up without an alarm clock. It's going to be great.
That's my daily. That's my daily business, baby.
Man, listen.
Come on.
Rub it in my face. You know, we're trying to get to a point where that can actually be a reality. We're working on that. We're really working on that. And it's not to say that it won't be just as much work during the week. Just be able to set our own hours.
Exactly.
And there's a difference. There's a big difference. So we got some things we're going to cover today. We have some very stupid things that Democrats have said, and we had an endless amount of them to choose from. So we're going to be going through some of that. And we're going to be talking about job creation, unemployment, Biden versus Trump, and trying to theorize, are people right when they say that if we get rid of the illegal immigrants, we really won't have people here to work blue-collar jobs? Are Americans unwilling to do the jobs that the immigrants will do, or are the Democrats just making excuses to justify illegal immigration? And I mean, there's tons of data points that we can go on to talk about that, and we'll do just that. And we will be right back after this, guys. Or after this. Here we go.
Since 2017, 150,000 farms have shut down, and working farmland has been reduced by 21 million acres. The system has been crippling the remaining farmers, forcing some to adopt nefarious farming techniques, like pumping hormones and other performance-enhancing drugs into their cows so they can survive in crammed feedlots. Or the farmers are forced to jump ship and sell to land-hoarding, profit-chasing agricultural oligarchies, who use their billions of dollars to crush the competition and increase your family's dependence on their manufactured food. What could possibly go wrong? The family farm will soon be a thing of the past, unless you do something. You can. That's why there's From the Farm, an industry-disrupting platform that connects consumers directly with local farmers, which means you can buy fresh, non-factory farm food, and you'll know exactly where your food came from and how it was raised. For the first time in nearly 100 years, independent farms will have a way to not only survive, but thrive. From the Farm was founded by A.J. Richards, an active homesteader, and Brooke Entz, a CrossFit Games athlete and an Amazonian warrior in the movies Wonder Woman and Justice League. She clearly has a passion for healthy food and a healthy lifestyle. And since both AJ and Brooke come from generations of ranchers and farmers, they know what they're talking about. We can't do this alone. We need the strength of the American people behind us. Help us build a new food system that combines the wisdom of the past with the technology of the future. Investing in From the Farm isn't just a financial decision. It's an investment into our future, our small family farms, and our food sovereignty. Invest today.
And welcome back to the Patriots Prayer Podcast, guys. Listen, we see Troll in the comments already. Brian, how are you? Troll asked, what was the Gulf of Tonkin incident? Let me see. So the Gulf of Tonkin incident was a key event that helped drag the U.S. deep into the Vietnam War, but the truth behind it is a bit murky. A lot of people say it's a conspiracy theory. In about July or August of 64, 65, the U.S. Navy said that 2 ships were attacked by North Vietnamese boats in the Gulf of Tonkin off of the coast. And the first attack was on the USS Maddox, and the second one was it was a brief skirmish. The second attack, August 4th, actually was more on the radar of like the sonar. So that was picked up due to bad weather or whales, and they misused the data and misrepresented it as a way for LBJ to use those incidents to justify us going to war. So, hey, did that answer your question? I hope so.
Hey, let me throw a bone to Troll, because he was commenting the other night about you picking up the crooner. What did he say? Sexy crooner? Something? I don't know. Glenn Baker, and what a great job you done. And I told him I wasn't really sure if I should have been excited or a little bit turned on by his comment. He got a little offended, so I just want him to know that it was not the turned on part.
You never really know what he means by what he says. There's dual meanings to everything. Yeah. So, guys, we are in a situation where ICE is going on to construction sites. Some people say they're posing as electrical workers to fool people, to get them all the way on the job site before they just go about arresting folks. But some people are saying Americans won't fill those jobs. Later on, you'll see a clip where Jasmine Crockett says, we ain't picking cotton no more. Like, my thing is this. When we ended slavery in this country, the Confederates used these same exact arguments as reasons to keep slaves. And it was once again then the Republicans who came along and stopped it then. They're making the same arguments now, whether or not they realize it, whether or not even some of them may be just stupid and well-intentioned. But they are making the same arguments that were made long ago for the America to keep people enslaved. I mean, we're going to see clips later with, people saying just the most horrendous things that you can actually see that, I wonder if they listen to themselves back sometimes. Like, do they actually hear what they say when they say it?
It has to be one way, because it doesn't sound like it ever comes back for any kind of adjudication.
So I'll start this off with Glenn. Glenn, Americans, will they return to blue collar jobs when we don't have immigrants to work those jobs anymore? Or are we going to find ourselves in a pickle where we need to import people to do jobs that America won't do?
Brother, I think that depends on where you're asking people from. If you're asking people in New York City, they're going to tell you, hell no, nobody's going back to blue collar. If you go to flyover state Oklahoma, where I grew up, there's a big majority still blue collar right there. So I think it depends on where you ask. Do I think people want to go back to working their fingers to the bone? Probably not, man. But you know what? We're in an economy, and we're in a position in our country right now. You're going to make more money going back to something like that than you are going and spending $100,000 to $30,000 on a college and coming out with a degree you can't get over $15 an hour for. So my answer to that
lesbian dance theory being one of those.
yeah. Gender studies and fluidity and So I think they will. I think there's going to be more of a conversion into the trades, plumbing, electrical, those kind of things. I think it's going to come back, and it's got to come back.
We have to put the game controllers down and start, remembering how to get callous on our hands. And what do you say, Nunz?
I think like one of the examples is the Purdue chicken factory threatening to close down. And I don't know, maybe this is an opportunity for us to move back towards more middle class and middle size businesses. Maybe this didn't work. Maybe having a complete consolidation so that the American workers weren't paid enough to survive and all the money went to the top isn't really a system that we want to continue. So maybe this is a chance for us to kind of rethink what the work week is, what is going on in our country, and what we need to produce. And maybe it's not having a giant factory that's producing a lot of unhealthy chickens like from the farm is trying to push. Maybe if
not from the farm. You mean Tyson chicken?
No, but that's what I'm saying. If we move to things like from the farm, we don't need the Tysons, do we? So by supporting from the farm, we're creating more jobs, but we're also creating better jobs.
Silver USA said she'd love to have her job back, that she loved taking care of patients and giving them good care. 300 of us lost our jobs in one day. And I'd ask you, Silver, was that due to being replaced by third world country nurses and things like that, where the standard to become a nurse is not quite as high as it is in the United States, but yet their credentials are accepted? And that is a problem as well, because that actually impacts the level of our healthcare. And I know that to be a fact.
Yeah.
Troll. This is why I don't put comments on the screen without screening them first, bro. Just so terrible, dude. So terrible.
Okay. Troll, I'll go back and look at it in a little while because I know it's going to be directed at me. On the Tyson chicken thing, though, on the Tyson chicken thing, here's an underlying thing. Well, aren't they owned by China now, or a big percentage of them?
We can definitely fact check that real quick.
I think we could say our pork is almost, I think it's completely owned at this point by China. So we have foreign companies owning our factories, paying below surviving wages with, terrible conditions. Maybe it is time for a reset to get back to Americans owning.
Maybe.
That's just it, right? When the tariffs hit, everybody was worried about paying. No, they're not owned by China. They're owned by an American multinational corporation. So yes, China, Singapore, China, whatever. Yeah, it's being too literal when in fact it just means China.
I want to go on the record. That's the first time I've ever been fact checked publicly and immediately on any kind of show. So thank you, Eddie, for doing that. I appreciate it.
I'm pretty quick with the thing here, but it's funny because you bring up a good point. China is buying a lot of farmland, and a sovereign country, and no other sovereign country in the entire world will allow a foreign nation to come in and purchase and own land. Even if you move to Mexico, you get a lease, and that lease runs out. It doesn't matter how much money you spent on that lease. That lease runs out. It's either 75 or 99 years, something like that. But at the end of that term of time, the property reverts back to ownership of the Mexican government, and then it can be sold again. The United States is selling off pieces of our sovereign country. Ron DeSantis took a hard stance against this, and it seems as though that where China is buying this land, it is always adjacent to military bases, and it's a very scary situation. What do you think about that?
Well, we do know that there's some pretty crazy stuff happening across the world. I mean, it just happened from Ukraine. Ukraine taking a bunch of these little drones in, destroying a big percentage of Russia's nuclear bombers.
I don't want to give them the complete credit for that, though, because they wouldn't have been able to do that without NATO.
Well, you've got a point there, but that's the mainstream stance on it. And normally I'm not going to go with the mainstream, but it fits my narrative right now because with China owning property so close to our military facilities, how easy would it be to have semi-loads of those things in place and do a surprise attack? On top of the fact that we have tens of thousands of Chinese men that are military aides that came through the border. We know that they're here. We know that they're here.
Well, and not only that, they have something like at last count, something like over 10,000 troops in Canada, and they've been there for over 5 years, and they say they're just doing military training. And we know for a fact that Canada doesn't use about 90% of its country. It's mostly forest. And I personally think that we should just take it. If they don't use it, we should use it. But that's just me. But there are thousands and thousands of Chinese troops up in the wilderness of count. We don't even know what the count is now. That was the count like 3 years ago. Yeah. So that could be a lot higher today. Trudeau was allowing them to come in and that sort of thing. But Nunzio, should we allow foreign countries to actually own pieces of the United States, lock, stock, and barrel? Should that be allowed?
Absolutely not. And it shows the kind of loss of morale that we're putting people into office that are literally selling our country off. Mm-hmm. And we need to, we've talked about it before in the show. It's time to get back to some basics of what make us American. I mean, what is the point of this government? It's to make sure that we have housing, to make sure that we can have jobs, to make sure we have a safe place. Right now, they're not delivering any of that. So it's about time that we get China out of America. We have to start owning our own land. And as far as the jobs that we're going to talk about, we have to really be aware that the data that's coming out is kind of clear that there's a huge job shift. So it's very disingenuous to say we don't want to do these jobs when purposely native-born Americans are not being selected for the jobs.
And that's true. And then you have DEI, which is a whole nother issue. And though we gotten rid of the practice in a lot of different institutions, for instance, college is all merit-based. There are certain federal statutes now that prohibit the practice, but some states are bucking, and they're not doing that. Today, there was a story that came out that had a trans day at school and encouraged the little boys to dress up like little girls in the school and show up as their favorite queen, whatever it is. I mean, it's horrendous. I don't understand it. I mean, I always pictured in America with pitchforks and torches chasing people down the street if something like that were to happen.
Well, they were very smart. They knew we would not do it if we didn't have property and we didn't have money in the bank. So their first move was to move us off our property and then to stop hiring us. So now most of us are not homeowners. Most of us don't have jobs. So yeah, we'd like to get the pitchforks and say enough is enough, but
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at Troll, man. No one's saying that. Oh my God, dude, this guy is just, he makes me laugh, brother. I appreciate your humor. I can't put your humor on the screen, but I appreciate your humor. But it is true. What you say is one of the main reasons why I believe we haven't had a revolution in this country. I think that people are gotten too used to their creature comforts that no matter what the government does, there will be a certain line that, I mean, you have to really corner Americans to the point where we're ready to cut off our cable television and our AC and fight back. Right. So and there's the other thing too.
I think COVID knocked us one rung even lower than that. We put up with a lot more than we should in COVID. We had Edward Snowden warn us and say they're taking our privacy. We've had more than enough warnings. It's up to us.
I've said for a long time, complacency is the reason we are where we are in this country today. We've sat here and said, oh, I don't really like that, but somebody else will fix it. But that's all by design. We got here by design. If you go back, I mean, let's go back to when I was a kid. Y'all are younger than me. I'm old, guys. Dang. I'm almost 60 years old. That's hard to believe. I'm pretty dang sexy for almost 60, though.
You dye your beard.
I know, baby. It covers up my ugly, man. It does. So, but let's go back to the 70s. The biggest majority of American men were laborers or in the labor field,
or worked in a factory or a mill.
They may not have been labor; they were management or something along that line. Sure. And then we started getting pushed so hard on college and universities and education and things like that. I'm not against education. I'm not. My daddy was. My daddy talked about educated idiots all the time, but I'm not against that. But when there's no balance and it's been pushed for a reason, and those universities and colleges have become indoctrination stations.
Yeah, poison ivy league. Yeah.
Exactly, to change the thought process of children they're 18, 19, 20, 21, they're still children, so that they come out the other side having no idea who they are or what they want.
The whole concept of reality has been erased and replaced with an ideologue that typically just says, hey, if you don't believe this, you won't be liked. So the weaker minded individuals give in and play along with the crowd so they're not disenfranchised or ostracized from the group.
Yeah.
And, I just have to say, I was a Latin teacher for years. We were able to build all that stuff without colleges. We were able to build all that stuff without master's degrees and doctorate degrees. So we were doing pretty well with just discussing ideas and talking about stuff. We built things that last 2,000 years. So somehow something got twisted that now people have 3 or 4 degrees and they don't know, and they wouldn't be able to wire the electric in a house. So what really all that work.
They also said that the reason why Trump won the election was because it was all the people that didn't go to college that voted for them. And I think that proves our point versus the point that they're trying to make, right? So,
but see, they use that, the people that didn't go to college, they use that they actually use a different word for that. The uneducated and unintelligent. Well, they can kiss my grits, boys, because I'm going to tell you what, my IQ is going to be much higher than most of those people that are walking out with a little piece of paper and a $200,000 debt.
You know, it's very true. I think that you can educate the sense out of people. Right, and there's no doubt you can educate someone to a point where they're absolutely useless. In most of the skilled jobs that I've been in, and I've been a computer programmer, I've ran computer companies, I've owned computer companies. I'm in a very skilled job right now where I control over $2.8 billion in contracts, of building everything from data centers to hospitals to stadiums to apartment buildings, you name it. And a lot of times when we get people in with degrees and all these types of things, they usually have to be taught when they get in the front door how to do the job. And you have to unteach all the things they learned in their college course with their, 3-letter whatever's behind their name. And it just doesn't really count for anything because the real world is different.
We're working to trying to get some more constitutional lawyers. So in California, you can go to school for 2 years and graduate with a giant amount of debt and learn law from a textbook. Or you could work for 4 years with a lawyer and then take the test. Why does it take 4 years when you're actually doing the job, but it only takes 2 years when you're reading out of a book?
And those regulations need to be absolutely removed. I mean, essentially, if I can show up and pass the test, that's all that should matter.
Well, I mean, I understand learning from a lawyer and going through the processes, but if you're going through the processes for 2 years, you have to go for another 2 years. But if I pay money and I read a book about the process, like I agree with you, if you could pass the bar and you know how it works, we need more lawyers. That's what law is supposed to be. It's
and when you
see people that we could use,
when you see people like Charlie Kirk and others that are like debating people, and he goes to these college campuses, 90% of their arguments against him are arguments from authority. So they'll actually say, okay, you're arguing against the trans thing. Well, they'll say, are you a biologist? And they think just because you're not a biologist, a doctor, or whatever, that you don't have the capability to understand the things that you're talking about. I can read data points. I have common sense. Do I need a PhD behind my name in order to be able to be in the conversation? Because I can tell you there's a lot of things that I've not been educated on, and I can stand my ground in most every type of arena with anyone around. It doesn't really matter. It's never mattered.
And Eddie, that's where the IQ comes back into play. And it's not even just the IQ, it's a social IQ. It's an ability to communicate IQ. There's a lot of different IQs that we have that are not measured and don't mean much to the ones that are calling us unintelligent and uneducated,
If I'm not mistaken, I'm just going to name a few people that are very, very, very successful that don't even have high school diplomas. Henry Ford didn't graduate from high school. I'll use one that the today's like pop culture will know. Simon Cowell, one of the most successful people ever in the music industry, does not have a high school diploma. So people can be very successful, and people say, well, they're the exception and not the rule. I think people learn and know what they want to know.
All throughout history, we forget all the scientists that built all the technology we're working on. It wasn't until the last 200-300 years that they were going to universities, and even very few of them. They were in their backyard. The man who found out oxygen, Lavoisier, he was building with some glass tubes and doing experiments. So like,
wasn't there a farmer, if I'm not mistaken, that actually built a rocket that made it to inner orbit? A farmer.
You're talking about in the 70s.
He got pretty high up. Yeah, I believe that.
He went inner orbit. He literally
or the people that are building water cars. You can split water with an electric current and you could light it on fire. Like you could be in your backyard building an engine on water.
That also
may not be efficient, but you know what I mean? Like you don't need to go to college to do that. And we're getting back to this logic-based education versus I memorize things and I have degrees.
I see.
That doesn't help.
It's crazy that you say that, Nunzio, because I remember reading about it. Are y'all old enough to remember the Weekly Reader in school?
Yep.
You do? So you do. Okay.
I don't. I went to school in Baltimore, though, so.
Well, they used to have a weekly news magazine for kids called the Weekly Reader. And I remember third, fourth grade, somewhere in that neighborhood, that was 172 years ago. It was an article about a guy that had created a car that could run off of water. I was so excited that I went over and told a guy across the street. My daddy had a body shop and a car lot, and there was a guy across the street had a used car lot. Steve, his name was Steve. I can't remember the last name. And I told him about it. He was a grumpy old man. I told him about it. He's like, boy, you so stupid. They ain't never going to be able to make a car run off of water. And I'm like, man, maybe I'm wrong. And I didn't believe it for a long time. But it's just been going on for decades. But what happened to those guys?
Well, there have been multiple people that have made cars that ran off water, and there have been multiple designs. Hell, I seen a car one time. I stay up late at night and I watch all kinds of goofy stuff on TV, and I seen a guy make a car one time run off piss. So I've seen engines run off of just about everything. One of the most interesting ones is a young black fella out of Chicago right now that has made this thing called Plastigen, I think it's called, where he's taking all of the leftover plastics and he's using them and turning them into fuel, and he's running cars off of them. And I thought, this is cool. And he runs his whole plant at the place where he works, and he makes this fuel off of solar energy. So it's completely 100% off the grid. So it's stuff like that. I don't think that we should put all of our eggs in that basket, but I definitely think that the energy sector should be diversified to allow for a little bit of everything. Windmills aren't fixing anything. So anybody thinks they are crazy. And then the same people who argue about global warming don't realize how much the solar panels and the solar panel fields actually heat up. So it's kind of a self-defeating argument.
If we really wanted a water engine, they put a $10 million prize and we'd have a water mill. You look at how much we spend on oil, they say $10 million, you build me a water engine that works. I guarantee you a group of college kids will come up.
I don't think it would even cost $10 million, to be quite honest with you. But back to the subject at hand. So we're talking about the main data points for job growth in America. And we're going to talk about some of the loopholes they use when they're talking about the unemployment rate, reality versus the numbers and how they use them. So right now they're saying with the unemployment rate was here. Let me actually just play the clip right here, and you'll see.
We're back with some breaking economic data. The U.S. economy added 139,000 jobs in May. That was slightly higher than expected. And the unemployment rate held steady at 4.2%. We've got Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver back with us this morning. Caleb, what are these numbers telling us about the current state of our economy? And was this what we were expecting?
Yeah, this is kind of right in the middle of where we're expecting, a little bit higher. Layoffs are low, but expansion plans, lots of hiring.
And that's the problem. That's the problem that I have with those guys, right? Because if you remember from the Carter era to the Reagan era, unemployment was high, and high unemployment was a little bit over 3%. These guys just scoffed. I mean, they absolutely spun a web of tails there. 4.2% unemployment. Keep in mind, that doesn't mean that there are only 4.2% of our people in the country unemployed. That just means 4.2% of them are drawing unemployment benefits.
Right.
There are a lot more people unemployed, and what they really should do is check that against the people that receive SNAP and EBT, food stamps, that sort of thing. And you'll see the real rate of the amount of people who are unemployed. And also, you got to ask yourself, how many of these people are we actually paying to stay home? And I come from Baltimore City, and I know that people that get on these programs are cyclical. I have seen parents raise their kids to get to an age where they can apply for disability, and they'll say he has this wrong with him or that wrong with him. And as soon as he hits 18, they just start immediately applying for these benefits. And they've created generation after generation after generation of people who survive off of government stipends. And when a government big enough to give you everything you need is a government big enough to take away everything you have, in the famous words of Ronald Reagan. What do you see, Glenn?
Well, that goes back to the indoctrination that we were talking about earlier, and it's by design. I can't remember, was it Eisenhower? Who was it that wanted to keep them? Oh my God! I'm not going to say what I think he said and how he said it, because we're going to get kicked out of here. But there was a method to the madness to keep the high melanin people under the thumb, and it was done through indoctrination. It's been done through welfare. It's been done through
the Great American Family Act. LBJ put that in place, and it largely affected the black communities. They went from a fatherless rate of around 23% to upwards of over 70-something% in the 90s. And that was largely due to the fact that they wouldn't offer benefits to anyone that had a working age male in the house. So what happened is the working age male no longer lived there. This created generations of fatherlessness. Now you can quote people like Louis Farrakhan and Obama, who has said that a son raised without a father is about 8 times more likely to be a criminal or go to prison. So this is in line with exactly what we're talking about. It's about culture. And in order to change the country, you have to change the culture. If you don't change the culture, you're not changing anything. So I love Trump's idea of like opportunity zones and getting rich people to invest in areas they normally wouldn't by giving them certain tax benefits to put factories and things like that in areas that are typically seen as I'm not going there, I'm not driving there. But it also creates opportunity for people there too. And there will be a certain segment of that population that will grasp that opportunity, and others that just want the quick and easy solution. And for them, largely, it may be dealing drugs or whatever the case may be, because they want instant gratification. They don't want to work for it. They want it now. Like there's a
indoctrination. Yeah, and that goes back to the indoctrination that we were talking about. And let's call it out for what it is. It was done primarily in the African-American community. Now it's spread out into other areas. But it was done primarily in the African-American community. I think one of the greatest things that Trump did in his first term in office was giving the grants to the Black community to open businesses and become entrepreneurs. If we can change the programming and get people to realize their value and what they're worth, instead of just being hands out dependent on a government not having any value, because you're not going to have value if you don't go out and create it. If you don't go out and do something you can be proud of, Eddie, it's hard to look yourself in the eye.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that way. But I can tell you, as someone who's been there, I have had to have my mind changed over a long period of time. When I left Baltimore City, my mindset was get what you can, however you can, no matter who it hurts, because you're eating or the guy next door is eating. It's better that you eat than him. So it was like a dog eat dog mentality. And you really do not care about your community. Everything is about you. And I think that the only way we change that is create opportunity in places where there was no opportunity. And the biggest thing I saw in the difference, but the contrast between where I'm at now and where I came from, was information. Largely, I had no access to the same information where I was than where I am right now. I have access to endless amounts of information. Now, with the advent of the internet and everything, now everything is at your fingertips. You're going to know what you want to know. But when I left there, it wasn't like that. When I came out here, I was introduced to things that no one even spoke about over there.
Well, does that have anything to do with segregation, Eddie? Whether you realized it or not, you were segregated in an area that everybody thought like you did.
Yeah. And that was the culture. That's what I'm getting at. You don't change the country if you don't change the culture. Yep. And you can't change the culture when people are guarding it by telling you that if you say something negative about the culture, that it's immediately racist. And that is the problem, because that is the force field that they throw up in front of them when you start talking about the culture is race. And culture, let me tell you, from someone who knows, and I grew up in a very biracial house. I have Filipinos, Mexicans, and Black folks that lived all in the same house with me. So when we didn't see things the same way, and we grew up in the 90s, race wasn't that much of an issue. It wasn't talked about the way it is now. People generally got along. It wasn't as divisive as it is now. And in my thinking is that the truth is the truth, whether or not you say it or I say it. And the difference is if you think you can tell what my intention is behind me saying it, and that's when the left engages in thought crimes. They think they know what you think, feel, and believe, and then they call you out based on that to try to demean your argument. But what they're really doing is detracting you from actually hitting your target. Because the moment that people get empowered and they have knowledge and they start realizing they don't have to depend on the government, then we're a little more symbiotic as a country. And that's something they really don't want. They want the divisiveness and they want the divide. What do you think, Nunzio?
I think they've rewritten the rules of chess, and then we're asking Americans to play chess. And so it's kind of hard for people to build a family.
That's deep. Say that again, because I don't think people really understood that. They invented a game, essentially, that they're telling you to play, but they're setting the rules as you go. And that's a dead on, and that's a dead on. I like that.
And that's why I think it's very important for people to organize locally, to find whatever experts you can in finance. It's just, we can't not know how this American game is played anymore, and we have to start playing the game. The people on Wall Street, so you're going to get the grant, you're going to build a business. Next thing you know, there's going to be a private equity company that's going to want to invest in you, and then they're going to buy your company and short sell it, and then put out a business and take the profit. Like, there's a bigger story, and we're not even getting to the point where we have houses and a solid income and families. And if that was the goal of the government, we would have that. It seems like the goal of the government is to have the rules rewritten so that we, the good people, are too nice and too kind, and don't mistake our kindness for weakness. But we are too nice and too kind, going about life, being good people, and all the money's being funneled to the top. It's time that we stopped, we learn the rules, and we start really playing the game. Because unless people are owning property, owning a house, unless one parent is bringing in enough money to raise a family so you could have 3 or 4 kids, that's where we need to be. And anything less than that is not acceptable.
But how did we get here? And here's my take on it, and I'll let you guys have your take. The United States became the reserve currency for the world. When that happened, a lot of Americans got rich and lazy. Let's just call it what it is. We farmed out all of our industry to other countries like China and Germany and other places. We shut down the mills and the blue-collar workers that were largely generational in places like West Virginia, Allentown, PA, Maryland, and so forth. Now their sons are now playing video games for a living instead of working with their hands, whether it be carpentry or working in the steel mill or whatever. So now we're back at a stage where we're seeing the downfall, where the dollar is starting to fail, and we're starting to see that we really can't rely on other countries to give us goods at the same quality that we used to produce them ourselves at. And with us getting rid of the fixing the illegal immigration problem in this country, that raises the problem of where does the industry come from? Because are the American workers going to return to the industrial jobs when we start deporting these people en masse? And that is really the question. Go ahead, Glenn.
When pain becomes greater than pleasure, that's when those changes take place. It's going to be a painful process to make it take place. What you're talking about, when that happened, was during the Bill Clinton administration and the free trade agreement, and everything opened up and people started leaving, and the tax advantages were outside of the U.S. Here's what, and again, man, I'm going to sound like a broken record this week, Eddie. I'm just telling you, I'm going to sound like a broken record. But it comes back to godly moral principles. If we have godly moral principles that we can push to the top, and I'm not saying Trump, I don't know how godly he is. He might be a complete rascal. I've met him, seems okay to me. I see some of the things he's doing, seems okay to me. But we really need godly moral principles at the top. And that's when people start following that and absorbing those kind of things. Guess what? This stuff all fixes itself. When I start saying, Nunzio, I want success for you as badly as I want it for myself, that's when we heal. And I think it's the only way that it's going to take place. We can jibber jabber all day long about strategies and methods and ways to do it, but without a change of heart, the outside stuff doesn't ever take place. Exactly.
And in the words of Billy Graham, we need a heart transplant. And I'm talking about a symptom. You're talking about the disease. The disease is a lack of the morality that came by way of this being a Judeo-Christian principled country. And we've gotten far away from that. And as a result of that, the moral fabric of the country has changed. The bar has lowered with every generation. What was not acceptable in previous generations is the norm now. And that's going to continue to change. You brought up something earlier, Nunzio, about Tyson Foods. I'm gonna play this clip real quick.
Drastically, and not for the better. This week, Tyson Foods announced that it will be permanently closing its pork factory in Perry, killing around 1,200 jobs in a town of just 8,000 people. So as Perry residents struggle to cope with mass layoffs, Tyson Foods has its eyes on a different class of workers. The company is now offering new jobs to asylum seekers in other states like New York. Bloomberg says Tyson's tracking migrants in a massive database. They scroll through the data like Facebook. You see a worker you like, tap, hire. They even had a job fair.
So you were at a Tyson fair in New York City not so long ago where Tyson was basically making this pitch. What did you observe when you went there?
They created a database for these new asylum seekers in New York City. So these people would come in, they'd learn a little bit about the company, and for the most part, Tyson had already gone through their various details of their application. And so many of them, 17 the day I was there, and then another 70 a couple weeks later, went off to Tennessee to go start their new job.
And the problem with that I see is after I don't know if you guys have watched James O'Keefe's movie, Line in the Sand. If you haven't, I'm going to send it to you when we're done here. You got to watch this movie. But the way that they're doing this is that people can't get jobs until they have housing, right? So what they're doing is they're going to these charities and churches that are basically being funded by the federal government to give places of refuge to these people. And the churches are not giving them a place to stay, but what they're doing is they're giving him a stamped piece of paper that says that they do have an address and it is at that church. James O'Keefe went in himself, pretending to be like Ukrainian or something like that, and they just, without even speaking to him, without seeing him, without looking at any of his identification, none of those were the criteria. They just issued him paperwork saying that he lived there, and it gets worse from there. But these are the types of things that they're doing, and largely they are bastardizing our immigration laws to allow asylum seekers into the country, and then telling us, well, you can't put them out of the country without due process. Now you have 20 million plus people. We can argue the numbers. Some say 30. I remember right at the tail end of Bush era, they were saying 22 million. So I don't know how the number dropped, but I would say closer to 30 million. And when you have that many people in your country illegally, undocumented, and you're going to hold 30 million trials? No, this is a trick. This was what they called replacement theory. And so now they're arguing to bring back members of MS-13, in which they did. They're bringing this guy back, which I can't believe they're doing. But he's only coming back to go to prison. Now we have a tax bill to feed and house this guy for the next God knows how many years, because he's going to prison for a long time on human trafficking charges. So he would have been better off going to, if he didn't want to go to El Salvador, go to another country and walk free. But now, hey, you got what you wanted. You went to bat for this illegal alien who came over here, trafficked humans, beat his wife, and belonged to a domestic terror group. And now you're going to bring him back into the country just so we can throw him in prison. It was largely a big political stunt. That's what I seen it as. Glenn?
Yeah, and I hadn't heard that. Did you see my face? I'm shocked that they got that done. But what you were just describing and what they were just describing happened in Ohio, and Trump shined a light on that during the run up for the office this last year, when he talked about they're eating the ducks, they're eating the pets in Ohio. When all of the immigrants and asylum seekers were there, it's exactly what they've done. They were imported, given a place to live or someplace they were supposed to be living, and took over the whole freaking town. Once it was exposed, they started moving out. Here we go again, exposing it, change of heart. And what we didn't hear from the media a lot was the actual people that had been in that town up to that happening and how they felt about it.
Well, they went to many of the town halls and they spoke. Like, why are you guys playing down this issue as if it doesn't exist? They are doing these things, but you're making memes about it online and laughing and acting like it don't. When they had to they had to put "don't eat the duck" signs in the parks. Yeah. So it's not as if they make a large mean joke out of it, but in fact, the people that were there were saying that it was happening. And to answer you, Troll, that he didn't have to go through a trial because he was a member of MS-13, which is already categorized as a domestic terror group. So he has to see no trial, no attorney, no lawyer, whatever. He can actually be deported immediately without any of that. He only needs a presidential say so, and that's all that was needed to get him out of this country. And the judges shouldn't be legislating and superseding the executive branch from the bench. And I just think that shouldn't be allowed. We already have federal statutes in place that allowed for things that happen to happen. I'm so much so behind. I understand how far things are gone, and I'm one that says if necessary, because we have so many criminals in office, declare martial law. I'm okay with it. I'm complete, because I know how far gone we are. Right.
Well, that goes back to that painful thing we were talking about a while ago. It will be, to fix it. It's going to be painful. It's going to freaking hurt. Or can we take a slow road and it takes 100 years? I'm out on that, baby. I don't think I got another 100 years left to live. And
it will take 100 years for us to have 33 million trials. These
Exactly.
people that are illegally in this country would have great grandchildren by the time they ever saw a courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, drastic times call for drastic measures, and something has to be done because they're using this loophole in the law to give people rights and constitutional grounds to stay here when in fact they broke it to get here. So I just don't think that the same law should apply. Nunzio, what do you think?
Yeah, I want to bring back to what you both are saying. I don't think we, as in we the people, chose to give those jobs away. I think it was the greedy business owners who turned their back on the American people. I think it was the greedy business owners who stopped being Christian and stopped treating people they wanted to be treated and decided to ruin our country. I don't know how else to say it. They chose to make their family riches. Now this is where we are. We're about to explain to everyone that 100% all of the net jobs for 4 years went to foreign-born workers. All of the jobs, not some of the jobs, not a few of the jobs. All of the jobs created, according to our own government, went to foreign-born workers. So this is the end of that. Now we're getting hired.
I'm gonna back you up here. So the numbers from 2019 to 2023 say 100% of the jobs went to foreign-born workers, not native-born Americans. And the BLS data snapshot says the total employment of all workers is 16 plus, and Q4 2019 was 158.6 million, and Q4 2023 was 161.2 million, with a net gain of 2.6 million jobs. And they use that as a way to stand on the fact that he was a job creator, but in fact, he wasn't a job creator, because as the population increased, they took away jobs from Americans, raising the unemployment rate, and gave those jobs to people who didn't have any right to work here to begin with, who bastardized our asylum laws to get here. Guys,
it's still going on. And they're claiming the unemployment rate doesn't change, but there's a shift. The rate is staying the same, but Americans are losing jobs and foreign-born workers. It's still happening, and they're not saying it.
Yeah,
they're lying right to our faces. So
Agreed.
We're not getting hired. We're now cut out of our own economy.
It's like imagine this: you have a glass of iced tea. You're at a restaurant, and every time you drink the glass, and you might sweeten it up a little bit, right? You might put some sugar in it, but every time the glass is half full, the waitress comes over and fills it back up with iced tea. Now you have to put more sugar in it every single time, because they don't account for the fact that when they dilute the workplace, it's not better. It's not better. It's getting more bitter each and every time, and it just hurts Americans in the long run. Guys, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this with some stupid things that Democrats say.
Woo! Welcome to Shop with America, where the emphasis is on America. Our movement is to switch away from your shopping with the big box stores and the mega corporations back to supporting family-owned, made in America. We've been giving these big box stores our money every day for years. But what's happened is they forced many small businesses to shut down. We call this the illusion of choice. We see all these products in these stores, but in reality, it's only a few companies that control it all. There are thousands of lawsuits for health damage because they put profit over our people. But there is another choice. We found a better way. There's a family-owned American factory with product integrity and have always done things the right way for the right reasons. And this company outperforms the big box stores. That's due to their month-to-month shopping club. They make everyday consumer products that we all use and buy again and again, like toothpaste, shampoo, coffee, and organic beef. Go to shopwithamerica.us today.
So guys, check those guys out over at shopwithamerica.us. They support us. We would very much like you to support them, because they're doing what we all wanted, to make America healthy again. There are no endocrine blockers. There are no hormones injected into the things that they sell. You're going to get real ingredients, not chemicals. You're not poisoning your family. You're already buying soap powder, dish soap, whatever it is in your house that you use to supply the things that you need. You're already buying these things. Just buy them from American-made companies, sourced right here in the United States. And with that, we're going to go on to listen to some stupid things that Democrats have said.
No.
I had to do that. So Let's start with number one.
The MAGA Republicans who voted for Trump and are giving me a tax cut. I had no idea that as a pretty well-off white person who has a job and everything I need, that I needed a tax cut. But you guys are so smart. And it must be true that as you kick off Medicaid people, they don't need any support, but I do.
I had so many ways for me to attack that, but Glenn, I'll give you first crack.
No, I really don't want to be thrown in any kind of a Facebook or social media jail. My social credit score is already teetering on the side of F. The only word I can think of is Karen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she feels like she should be taxed more for being white and successful. Mm-hmm. Whereas the American way was that it's my money. I want to keep it. I worked for it. It's sort of like that first letter George Washington wrote to the king. Get your damn hands out of my pockets. And that's exactly what it is. We are not, as a country, responsible for the success or the failure of people in this country. This country was created to give you opportunity, not equity, which assures an outcome, but opportunity and equality, which assures you nothing more than the chance to actually succeed. And Nunzio, you have a take?
No, absolutely. It shows a complete misunderstanding of how our whole system works. And to agree with your point, yeah, the point of government is to stop a small group of people from gaining too much money and too much power so that no one else has opportunity or power. And if she's so worried, maybe she can give some money away, or
you can always donate. I mean, you can very easily donate. If you just feel like you don't want that tax break, find any organization you want to give it to and give it to them. That's at the end of the day. So here's the next one. And you can't do a dumb things that the left says without having Jasmine Crockett.
To go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
So I don't think she even understood. See, this is why I say they're arguing for slavery, and they don't even realize it. They're like, we have graduated beyond this. You need to find a new class of slaves because we're not going to do it anymore.
There is a whole movement of people who are dying to get on a couple acres and to start farming and to move out of the city. And
I know several.
Many of them are black. Just to mention specifically how ignorant Jasmine Crockett is for the people that she pretends to represent. It's just absolutely one of the lowest IQ people I've seen. And it's very embarrassing that she speaks like that in public. It's very disappointing across the whole board. I don't even know what she's talking about. And to constantly dog whistle and pull out, like, why have to go to picking cotton? It's just like, it's exhausting. It's exhausting at this point.
Glenn?
She doesn't know what she's talking about most of the time either. That's when she looks out the side of her eye for somebody to let her know, hey, was that something good that I said just then? And I want to know where Grace Baptist Church is that had the audacity to even invite her to come and speak. I mean, that's not Satan, but I think it's Satan's sister.
It's definitely like satanish. All right. So the you know what the Bible says? The Bible says if you don't work, you don't eat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, mine does. I don't know if they added something different in everybody else's, but that's what mine says. So there's a lot of things that you have people that are on the left that claim to be Christian, Raphael Warnock and others, and many people on the left that say they don't get to tell people whether or not they can have an abortion. My answer to that is very simple. You may not agree that you have the right to tell somebody that they would have an abortion or not, but why would you vote for laws that would allow them to? So as a Christian, you have a moral obligation to not allow for a system that would be set up to allow for, infanticide. So that's a very, very simple question. Now, the next one, you obviously know you cannot have the Democrats say the stupidest things without this woman.
But I am, of course, the dynamic there in terms of geopolitics and the war in the Middle East is very different than people expressing their First Amendment right to protest.
Well, yes, but I also think that what people are starting to see, at least in the occupation of Palestine, is just an increasing crisis of humanitarian condition. And that to me is just where I tend to come from on this issue.
You use the term the occupation of Palestine. What did you mean by that?
I think what I meant is
She has no idea.
the settlements that are increasing in some of these areas and places where Palestinians are experiencing difficulty in access to their housing and homes.
Do you think you can expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd also just, I am not the expert on geopolitics on this issue.
You think you might want to shut up then, right? I mean, it's just me. She did not know. This is the left in total. They are arguing for things because they're told to, because they're paid to. Special interest groups have funded them to fight or vote a certain way. Half of the time they don't even know what they're arguing for, and she's the perfect example of that.
I just lost 17 IQ points watching that, and I'm hoping it's temporary.
No, Glenn, those with her, they're permanent.
I lost some yesterday when my daughter left the front room and she left TMZ on, and I couldn't find the remote. So for like 10 minutes, I'm running around looking under couches and everything, having to listen to TMZ. Oh my God.
And you know, that's the saddest part. Jasmine probably would enjoy a life with a husband and kids on an acre or two surrounded by some animals like we've been doing for thousands of years. I can't think of a more beautiful thing than to have a house, some chickens, and be able to go to town when you want and be able to come out. So my question to her until is like, what do all you want? What is the point of all this?
So here's one that's pretty horrendous, guys. This is, you got to hear this one.
And of course, we have to come to a place in Congress where it is no longer a political issue, but we see it as an existential issue for the country. If we don't have avenues for people to come here legally to work or to build a home here, I'm going to be really crude right now. We're not going to have anybody around to wipe our asses because.
Where do we put that up on jobs.com?
Oh my God! You know that profession, if it exists, it's in San Francisco or Austin.
Oh my God!
I can't believe this woman just said that with a straight face. Like this is what I'm telling you. They are the Confederacy 2.0. They are.
We have moved so far away from families that this woman doesn't know who's going to take care of her when she gets older.
Good point.
I mean, isn't it sad? We've moved she won't when I hear that, I think, well, hopefully my kids and my grandkids and our extended family will be there to take care of me same way I took care of them. This is the end of a narcissistic life. You get to the end and you realize the only people who are going to take care of you are people that you pay. That's sad.
Dude, you have just proven my point that I lost IQ points watching AOC a minute ago because I didn't think about her saying when she's old and gray. I'm thinking like right now. I don't have anybody to wipe my butt. Now you tell me it's when I get old. Shit, man. I'm telling you, I need what builds up IQ again? Give me some supplements, Eddie. I need some help, baby.
Lion's mane. Ashwagandha.
That's lion's mane. Isn't that a
it's a mushroom.
That's a mushroom. I'm gonna go on.
Yep. Another one that I take and I swear by, and it really, I mean, just to go on a rant about it, but it really changed two things. I promise you that you will notice a huge difference in how you think and feel if you do these two things. Take methylene blue and Shilajit. Shilajit is nothing more than a tar mineral that you put in a little bit of in some warm water and that's it until it dissolves and drink it. It raises testosterone by about 23% over a course of 90 days. It's double blind tested. It's a fact. And methylene blue actually puts oxygen back into the blood cells. So your workouts and your energy and your testosterone all come online, and it's like you're rebooting it. I'm telling you, it'll change everything.
I did all of that because I thought chili was something I put in my prize-winning chili. So I need to find out what that really is.
Here we go. Last one.
Your testimony today.
Oh, hold on. We have one more.
Personally witnessed President Joe Biden commit a crime.
I believe the fact that he was sitting with me while I was putting together a business
Did you
deal,
witness the president commit a crime? Is it your testimony today?
Yes.
And what crime have you witnessed?
How much time do I have to go through it?
It is simple. You name the crime. Did you watch him steal something?
Corruption statutes, RICO and conspiracy.
What is the crime, sir?
You
specifically.
You asked me to answer the question. I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar with. Corruption
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. RICO is not a crime. It is a category. What is
it's a category of crimes that you're then charged.
You have charges.
A long 100.
You have charges. Sir, please
name the exact statute under RICO.
Yes.
Well, it's funny. In this committee room, everyone's not here. There's over 8
All right, sir. I reclaim my
lawyers that went to law.
That has to be among the stupidest things I have ever heard said. But here is the top one, guys. This is the last one. Now, this person was talking about illegal immigration and about rapes and murders that occur as a result of these people being let into our country unchecked. This was her answer. Oh, come on, right here.
The MAGA.
Tell me that I don't have the clip. Oh, I'm going to kick myself.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
Hold on. I do have it. I'm going to find it right here. I'm going to remove one of these from the studio, and it probably wouldn't fit. So give me just a second because you got to hear this woman's answer. Here it is. I need more room. They need to upgrade the software here so that I can get more room.
They need to hire more American programmers.
There it is. Oh, they said that the video is a bit too short. That sucks. Here, let me see if I can put it in the media. There's 2 ways to do this. So give me just a second, and I'm going to do it a different way.
More than one way to skin a cat, Eddie.
Hey, man, I'm on it, dude. Here it is. Here it is. Now, her answer to rapes and murders is this.
Time to time, things will happen.
Did you catch that?
From time to time, things will happen.
She was asked about immigration and about the lack of people being checked at our border and the open border policy and the crime that it allows, specifically as it relates to rape and murder. And her answer, quite frankly, was
From time to time, things will happen.
From time to time, things will happen.
Yes, sir.
Oh my!
And she was specifically being asked a question about child rape. That was the question, and that was her answer.
Wow.
What was the people's answer to her? Did we speak up and say that's not acceptable?
That was just the clip. I mean, I didn't get the whole thing. That was just that part of the clip. But I mean, after you say something like that, do I really need someone to tell me how stupid that is? That is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. Like when the TDA went into Denver, Colorado and took over the apartment complexes. And then they said, well, it only happened twice. Oh, only 2 apartment buildings. That's it. Okay, then let's just not worry about it. That's fine. Right? It's ridiculous. But guys, I want to invite everyone out to we're going to Idaho and to Boise, and we're going to be going on the 20th and the 21st to the Hetero Awesome Fest. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. So awesome is in the name, right? So Ryan Matta, Ian Carroll, Maurice, myself, we're all going to be out there. I think Patriot Barbie, Heather's going to be there. The Texas one. There's going to be a lot of influencers all in one place. It's going to be a great time. We're going to celebrate God's original plan for the family. We're not there to be anti anything. We're there just to celebrate God's original design, our own little version of pride, if you will. So if you want to join us, go to heteroawesome.org, get all of the event details there, and we will see you there. I'll be there. Cool. I'll be the guy with the American flag wrap on my car. So
I'm glad you said on your car. I thought it was going to be someplace else.
No, that would be Maurice. Maurice will put on a pair of American flag spandexes and wave a flag on the corner. I have a video. I have to dig for it, but there is a video. He will wear some cutoff jean shorts with them American flag spandex coming out from under him. He will.
Maurice is the man, baby. Maurice is the man.
He'll do it with no shame, brother.
Someone has to handle right up there. That's fine.
Anything you guys want to say before we get out of here?
Man, again, I think I'm just stupider and more dumb than I was before we started. Can it get any worse? I don't know, man. But I sure hope it can get any better. And it will get better. Let's get out of our complacency. I just produced a song, music video, and a film called "Finish This Fight." And what we talk about in the movie is exactly what you and I and all three of us have been talking about tonight. Is the problems in our country, the corruption in our country, the things that have gotten so out of hand, and the only ways that it's going to change. We got to come back to God, but we got to get up off of our blessed assurance and do something. And people ask me all the time, Glenn, what can I do? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you can do. I thought I knew what I could do, but I didn't even know what I could do. Find God, get close to Him. He's the author of truth, and He'll put you on the right path because we need you. We need you. We need warriors. Doesn't matter whether you ever wore the uniform or not. There are warriors rising up right now, and if we come together, like Nunzio said, come together locally to start with to make our changes. Because guys, if we can change locally, then we can change regionally. Then we can change states. Then we can change the nation, and we can get back to some semblance of what is wholesome, pure, and good, and what actually the world has looked up to recently.
And Nunzio?
Yeah, I had 2 points I wanted to make. First point is I wanted to talk to other young American dads who are out there who are struggling. You got a family, you got kids, you got bills. And for many of you who are not able to get employed, just know it wasn't you. The numbers are behind the truth now. Americans were not hired purposely for the past 4 years. And just readjust your thinking a little bit. It's a lot when you're trying to find work and you have all the pressure on you. So I just wanted to take a moment to, to speak out for other good Americans out there. If you were born in this country, you were not hired on purpose for the last 4 years. And to echo what Glenn was saying, everyone keeps asking, what can we do? Well, here's an idea. I grew up with things called civic associations, where every locality had meetings and they put money together to have a lawyer. So maybe if we start meeting in our local towns and we start putting money together to have a lawyer, we can start to work on local solutions that can actually lead towards things happening. And so I just wanted to leave that thought with everyone. If we start getting more constitutional lawyers on our side, working directly for the people, this is how we start to fight back. It's going to be a fight in the courts, but the more people who do it, the more fighting back we could do. And for all these stories that we hear, like, why is no one getting hired for 4 years? Well, the only way we're going to be able to deal with that is if we take some legal action and hold those people accountable. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping to see some Americans return to our original intent and to get together and to end this. But I think we're going to do it.
And guys, I'm going to say what I always say. The silent majority, you need to stop being silent and stand your ground. Evil will never retreat willingly. It must be beaten back in every case. We can't afford to give up any more ground, and any ground we take back has to be intentional. So don't be afraid to fight. Don't be afraid to speak up, because quiet, and it's as easy as this. If you're not helping, you're hurting. If you're being silent, it's complicitness. We used to live in a day and an age where we could just mind our business and go to work and raise our family. I'm sorry, that's not where we are anymore. And if you want that for your grandchildren, you're going to have to sacrifice now.
Yeah.
So You can't be quiet anymore.
That's the tree of liberty time, baby. You know it's going to have to be watered, and we're going to be the ones that have to water it.
So with that, guys, have a great weekend. Look out for somebody else besides you and don't want nothing for it. How about that? That's a good place to start. Troll, we'll see you later, brother. Love you. Have a good one.
My people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough.
This is the Patriots Prayer Podcast. It's a tremendous show, one of the greatest shows in the history of the world.
This is Bryson Gray, and you are watching the Patriots Prayer.
PPN, you're doing the right thing.
On the Patriots Prayer Network. Thank you all.
PPN on your bumper.
I'm Tom McDonald. This is the Patriot Prayers Network. Check it out. Lots of good TV. Lots of cool people. Tune in. Keep it locked.
I'm the white boy with the middle fingers in the air, dog. We don't give a what. 100 white boys gonna hold me down anywhere, dog. We think that you suck. My Patriots, the craziest. They ain't afraid of breaking fists on faces. If you really wanna taste of this, don't safety tip. The same mistake and spray the clip. I pray you miss, cause if you don't, they gon' go wacko. Automatic gun smoke like tobacco. Never hit a lady, but it's pretty hard to tell if you're a girl or a they, them. There's these, that, those. I ain't never gonna take a knee for the anthem. Smack them. I don't give a damn, can't stand them. Gang full of randoms. Fan with a handgun. Run up in your mansion, leave it all abandoned. I was raised to be brave to the grave. United States, we love the country that they've been corrupting. Go woke and go broker if you ain't awake. My people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is